5 days of power-packed panel, 180 plus speakers and 100 plus awards daily happening from the August 31st to September 4th. And today being day 3. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with no liquidity in the market, there's a cash crunch, and many hotels are looking very closely at hotel expenditure. Our next session with the expert procurement managers is on not just about price and availability. Well, the moderator of the session is going to be Dr. Nitin Nagrale, founder HPMF and CEO QualityNZ India and Emerging Markets. We've got ND Hariharan, Associate Vice President, Central Materials Group, IHCL. Sudhir Gupta, Head Procurement, ITC Hotels. Dr. Sanjay Goyal, Vice President, Supply Chain Management, Lite Foods Private Limited. Shankar, Vice President, Procurement, Leela Palaces Hotels and Resorts. We've got Bharanidharan, Ramaswamy, Director of Procurement, Marriott Hotels India Private Limited, and Arvind Mathur, Regional Director, Strategic Sourcing, South Asia, Radisson Hotel Group. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call upon Bhuvnesh Khanna, CEO of BW Communities, to join me on the stage now. Hi, Bhuvnesh.
Thank you, Bhavna. This is a show I'm looking forward to. In fact, I always look forward to. Bring them on.
Sure. Let's get the panel on. Sure. Thank you so much. Let's get the panel on.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. So let me tell you, hi, everybody. I'm just coming to each one of you. I'd like to spend some time on the show. Don't close the show, Bhavna, and others till I tell you. Nitin?
Yes, sir. I think और Mr. Gupta बाकी हैं सर.
सुधीर जी नहीं.
सुधीर नहीं है.
हाँ.
We'll wait for Sudhir ji. So on this show, if I don't have my mobile, I'm dead. I'm just going to take a second off.
Yeah, I just want to say hello to all my colleagues in the fraternity whom I haven't had a chance to meet personally. Hi. Hi. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, Arvind.
Hello.
So what happened to Sudhir?
So I think he sent a message. He was unable to log in. Now I think the space has been created, you know.
Yeah.
Okay,
He's joining in.
I've just got a message. He's joining. So we have just crossed the halfway mark of the summit. So
Yeah.
let me tell you, you can keep joining us. So this is
50% of the show is done, sir.
So let me tell you, only 50%. Because
The rest of the 50% will happen now. That's not.
so let me tell you, I was very hungry today, and I had less than 4 minutes to go to the bend and finish lunch. So I've just about got my food here. So the first time in 3 days I've had lunch. So 3 days. This is
Yesterday, people were reminding you yesterday. Did you have lunch?
So let me tell you, when I set out in 2014 to start, I started meeting people कि यार ये करना भी चाहिए नहीं करना चाहिए. Then I met a man called Abrajyoti. वो तब पूना में होता था, वो ब्रिंटन्स कारपेट कंपनी में. उसने मेरे को बोला कि हॉस्पिटैलिटी परचेज मैनेजर्स की फोरम है, वो एक लड़का है बॉम्बे में है, वो एसोसिएशन का हेड है. मैंने कहा अच्छा भाई. तो कहते मैं आपकी उससे बात कराता हूँ, आप उससे मिलो. तो बात कराई, बात हो गई. देन वी स्टेड इन टच. मुझे ये नहीं पता था कि इतना बड़ा पटाखा है ये. So this man is not a chupa Ristam. He has done quite a bit. Nitin is, you see, I always tell everybody that there are two kind of professionals, right? Both do extremely one who can lead, the other ones, Nitin, we spoke yesterday,
Yes, who gets late?
who can be led. Both will deliver. One will lead and deliver, the other one cannot lead, but when led well can deliver. So Nitin is a leader who leads everybody, and the ones he leads, they also deliver. If they are without Nitin, they will not deliver. It's my faith. I may be wrong. I don't think I am too far off. And amazing chutzpah he's got, amazing energy levels, and may you all do well. I don't want to take away the punch from the others. I also want to welcome Mr. Senthil Tangam from Blue Star. Blue Star is my industry. I used to be with Whirlpool. I used to be with Reliance Retail. So, Senthil, you may want to come center of screen, your bottom of screen. And I'm very fond of both Mr. Tyagarajan and Mukundan Menon. Mukundan I have dealt with during my Reliance Retail days. Sara and Priya both. I'll come to Bharanidharan Ramaswamy. I used to call him Bharanidharan sir or something. He told me, don't call me sir. So I said, okay, then you stop calling me Bhuvnesh. वो क्या पूरा नाम बोलते थे Mr. करके. So then he started calling me Bhuvnesh and Bhuvi. Mr. Hariharan, this is my first show with you. Hari comes with very strong credentials from IHCL, Taj, extremely solid professional. Mr. Sai Shankar, very polite, genial person. Almost new Leela. Is it 3 months now? Or third month?
It's fourth month.
So fourth churro, yeah.
Since March I am.
All right. Arvind Mathur is a slippery character. He doesn't come on my shows. He does not respond, but he has finally come today. I'm happy. Are you from my school?
Oh my God! Why
Yes,
did you
I
say
am.
that?
I am. I
You
am
are?
very much a modernite. I am a modernite, yes.
So you better start respecting me and agreeing to what I say. I'm your senior.
Of course, you are my senior, of course.
Right? Well, Arvind. And
Very
Dr.
well, very
Goyal, again, a very strong procurement professional. We'll wait for Sudhir. I don't know what's happening. Whenever he comes, now this is, procurement managers have a very tough job. They have to be the balance between the ones who are selling to them and the ones who are pressurizing them to buy, be it chief engineers, owners, or operators, or general managers for that matter of fact. And they do not have an easy job. I've been a buyer. I mean, in the sense, Reliance Retail was all about buying and then selling from our state. So I know a bit of this. It's not very easy. But I used to talk margins over here. Here you talk about savings, right? And getting the best bite for your buck. So I should not add more when you have a legend in Nitin Nagrale sitting over here and talking. So Nitin, please take over and थोड़ी अपनी मूंछ नीचे कर ले.
थोड़ा ज़्यादा ऊपर हो गई.
हाँ.
Okay. In fact, Khanna Sahab, I want to thank you first of all for giving this opportunity to us for showcasing what we are. Procurement has always been on the sidelines of the operations. It's always was considered that it's a support function and a function which was there because the operations were there. But in the last few years, I would say in last 10, 12, 15 years, the function has started gaining momentum. It has started gaining the recognition which it deserved in hospitality industry. In the other industries, yes, that's considered as the forefront function. But in hospitality, it was always that it is one of the functions. But I'm happy that leaders like these were.
Sudhir ji has come. Hello, Sudhir ji.
Hi,
Sudhir
everyone.
ji heads procurement for ITC Group. ITC Hotels Group. Welcome,
Right,
sir.
Hi, everybody.
Sorry, Nitin. Boliye.
Yeah. So I'm thankful to leaders like these who are on this panel today. They have created the impression of procurement. They're the ones who have created a solid impression in the minds of not just the management but people at large. For us, supply partners are an important element in the success of our own careers. And if you look at all these gentlemen, 6 of them, and obviously Mr. Senthil, so they're all known for the relationship management with their supply partners. They're all known for their knowledge, their wisdom, and they're also known for the way they have trained their own team members. I'm fortunate that I have worked under Mr. Bharanidharan Ramaswamy. I'm fortunate that I have worked with Mr. Arvind Mathur. I have always looked up to Dr. Goyal, and I have told him that one day I really want to work for him, because the industry is such that it recognizes what you give it back to them. And today, the topic which we have is not just cost and value, but then cost and price. But how do we take our own existence, our own relationship management, our wisdom, and take the department to a next level? Uh, we will initially definitely talk about COVID, because that that is a pandemic, and that's an event which has actually changed the thinking of all of us. By now, we have all experienced the initial panic and shock from COVID-19. The majority of us are settled into our new working conditions and also adapting to our businesses to the challenges ahead. We have seen an unprecedented number of businesses that have adapted to these new circumstances. And then the shift towards automation, towards AI, which is allowing companies to manage uncertainty and ensuring business continuity while building new capabilities and processes that actually will deliver unequaled value to the customers, partners, stakeholders, our own guests. As such, I would say that the businesses have been forced to adapt to the new changes. This pandemic actually was extraordinary, and it has left an extraordinary impact on the businesses across all sectors and locations. It highlighted that the traditional way of doing procurement may no longer work. Previous crises were almost there, but then they were as such limited in their reach. But this pandemic is not just different, but it's absolutely catastrophic, because the widespread impact, it has also affected overall existence of the hospitality industry. There is no support from the government. We still are not completely open. There was an announcement which was made day before yesterday that now the state-wise the hotels can open, but then there are so many restrictions. There is no travel which is opened up completely. But how can we, as procurement leaders, add value? And I feel I'm blessed that I am with these kind of gentlemen who would not just give us away to the audience who's listening and watching us, but we will be able to tell you what else can be done apart from what have we been doing. COVID-19 is one pandemic which has gone into our lives, but now we'll have to keep that behind and look for future. Future is different, and I'm sure this is going to be something which we all were waiting. In one of the panel discussions I heard, and I also believe that this is an opportunity. Let's not consider this as a problem. This is an opportunity for us to do things differently. So, with this thought in mind, we felt that let's talk to topmost procurement leaders of this Indian hospitality industry and understand the way forward. I'm going to be asking my first question to Mr. Bharanidharan Ramaswamy. Bharani, do you think are we entering into a new era of collaboration in procurement?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Bhunesh, for giving this opportunity. Thank you, Nitin, and other panel members. This is an amazing, platform to at least interact and then share the, knowledge and experience. So, Nitin, coming to the point of the new era of collaboration, I mean, particularly in my personal view, if you look at it, procurement is surely, I strongly say, more than 90% is just about collaborating, either with external partners or with the internal partners. Okay. Now the time is such, where we really need to get into the kind of more meticulous and very kind of close interaction with every stakeholders to ensure that we are actually aligning our whole department to the kind of expectation of the business, and also with the kind of really aligning to the kind of bringing the suppliers to the alignment to our expectation of the business. So yeah, it is. I surely agree. Yes, collaboration is already there, but surely with the kind of current pandemic, current situation, it is important what we are doing. Yes, maybe earlier X times, today is require a kind of 2X times. So it's more number of collaborative approaches, more number of interactions, more number of systematic approaches to be really taken. Maybe do you have time to elaborate on this a little more in detail?
Sure. Please go ahead, Bernie.
Okay. Yeah. So if I give a kind of perspective, for example, in the procurement, normally people think for procurement, I mean, for some of the laymen, it's more like a purchasing of just some vegetable or no grocery or no some of the engineering equipment. But based on my experience, based on the kind of processes and systems which we have experienced over a period of time, developed over a period of time, like in Marriott, if you look at it, we have some for basic, annual tender processing, we have 32 different steps, involved in that. So if I broadly take it for procurement, there are even you take a bigger aspects of certain top 10 or 12, important steps, starting from the initial aspect of when a kind of specification finalization. It's very important that we collaborate with the user team very clearly that what is their expectation, and at the same time we work with suppliers, what is that possibility of meeting their expectation, and then bridging the gap is very important. Today it is just not about buying a kind of food or vegetable or grocery. It's also about some engineering equipment. What happens that there are certain expectations of the user team which we need to really see whether that is available in the market, or if it's not available, whether we have a better version of it or lower version of it. That bridging a gap is something is very, very close interaction, collaborative efforts is required. Now coming to the next step of, like, for example, when we're going for advertising a tender documents on the newspaper, it's very, we need to take a collaborative step in terms of attracting the various supply partners to really be working with our industry so that we can develop suppliers year on year. And for example, when you go to the level of like a blind testing or yield testing, we need to work closely with some of the kind of user team to do those kind of blind testing or yield testing or some of the lab testing. We need to collaborate with some of the lab partners, right? And when going to the kind of when operations like deliveries, when it comes to the deliveries, we need to work with transporters, we need to work with logistics partners, we need to work with even as simple as some of the tax authorities, wherever if it's a kind of customs duty or imports are involved. So collaboration is ideally, I say that procurement is one need to have a skill set of really managing the time, money, and also people expectation. That something is very, very important to ensure that we really follow that. And so pre-COVID and post-COVID, if you look at it, the difference is that if I was doing X number of times, today I have to really look at the possibility of doing 2X number of times, because the expectations are far bigger, because we need to get a better product at a better price, far bigger price, and very cost effective. When the kind of cash flow is tight, we need to really work with suppliers to understand their situation, and also work with the organizations, in understanding their situation, and then bridge a gap. So it's a very, very important role which procurement leader has to play. Yeah.
So are we saying that the collaboration was there before, and then it will remain forever? But then is there any change? Is there anything extra which we would do, Bernie? Now keeping this COVID-19 in mind.
Yeah. So I think, see, what is important is that at this stage, one of the very, very critical aspect, which of course I spoke in the couple of previous discussions, is very important, is that working with the right partner, and really choosing a right partner, and then understanding their attitude towards safety standards, and their willingness to work at this difficult time, and then willing to invest with the kind of organizations, is going to be closely looked upon, which is going to be helping not only the organization to really work with them for long term. So it's also a moral responsibility of the big multinationals like us to really ensure that the suppliers who are working closely with us, and then really investing their time and efforts in developing a new product and bringing a kind of efficiency during this difficult time, to ensure that we give them back on the kind of future, a business opportunity for long term. All right.
Yeah. So that as such puts a lot of pressure. So my second question is to Mr. Sudhir Gupta. Sir, as a procurement specialist, how do you respond to working under pressure? I will also elaborate. How can such situations be avoided and appropriately tackled? Do you also think, is there any good process that could be applied from the other industries?
Yeah, thank you, Nitin, and thank you, Bhumi, for a splendid program. Coming to the question, Nitin, see, the last decade, I believe, internationally or nationally, there has been a sea change. There has been a disruption in the whole, hospitality industry. The startups like OYOs, particularly in India, who has come in, who has made to, look at the way we function for the other categories of hotels as well. And so was the case internationally by B&B and all. Now, particularly within India, because of this scenario, the customer expectations, those are also going up. And to meet those customer expectation, there is a lot of focus for most of the hoteliers to give something better, to enhance the value to the customers, right? And that too at much more cheaper or much competitive cost internally, as well as at a quick lead time. So time and cost, these are becoming two very important deliverables and still giving a much better value to the customers. So all this, when it flows back to the procurement, it flows back to all those purchase managers. Now the whole pressure comes onto that. And why is that much more? Because the things are coming very unplanned. The quantities, the kind of width of products that that's coming is not possible even for the operation team to plan many a times. But even if there is a little room for that, there are also instances wherein the planning is not up to the mark. So one key reason being the unplanned needs which are coming. Second could be the frequency at which these items are ordered, the replenishments required or new items required. The frequency is also changing. Which was not like before, where was a set pattern, and with that you can collaborate with the vendors, and the products were coming. But here it's a kind of you come into a dark. You are taken by a surprise with the frequency with which certain particular items you might be requiring. So the fluctuation in the quantities, unplanned quantities, and there is also added with that new requirements of the product developments. Now nobody knew about COVID, of course, but before that also off and on there have been lot of worldwide, or even with the competition chains, there has been requirements of the new products, and wherein the procurement plays a very critical role. So because of all these factors, there is an immense pressure which builds up on the purchasing team off and on, right, on the procurement team. Now the response to that, how do you respond to that? That of course, one is the kind of ownership what the purchase or the procurement specialist with experience they need to own. Okay, they are aware of it. Off and on keeps on coming. It's become a new normal as such. It's not too different for them. It's a kind of new normal for them. And they need to they have in their mind that we need to walk extra mile to achieve all these fluctuations and the extra needs in the aspiration to satisfy the internal customers as well as the external customers needs. Now how can we avoid this? How can we tackle this situation? Is there anything which we can do? Yes, certainly. There should always be some attempts. One is that right from the beginning, there should be a good collaboration with the different function internally, so that as any new product is required, the developmental part happens together. So there is a collaboration internally across the functions, and purchase is involved into the product development right from the beginning, so they understand the specifications. Second could be that there is a pre-planning to be done by the procurement specialist itself in the operations. There is a dire need to have a continuous data analytics to continuously monitor what is selling. The pattern, the consumption behavior, the consumption pattern is very important. You can't make it uniform. Whatever pattern I might have in a Delhi hotel might not be the same in a Mumbai or in a Bangalore hotel. So localized study of the consumption pattern also prepares a procurement specialist to work collaboratively or proactively with the vendors, right? And have those things at a go, right? The fluctuations can be, managed very well that way. And of course, thirdly, thinks the kind of right size team, okay, and a specialized team. So procurement should not be taken, okay, just like Barney was mentioning a while back, that is the kind of commodity or some perishable you are buying. The today's procurement for the hotels is seen a hell lot of change, right? So you need to have people as the specialists who understand those products, who understand a variety of the items, and who can give some kind of feedback, who can work collaboratively with the vendor with their inputs. So doing all that, I think internally these issues situation can be tackled. And there are a lot of good examples, so there could be a lot of learnings from the other industries as well, which can be taken. FMCG, automobiles industries, etc. All of them work in kind of there is good tool of demand forecasting. Okay, again, you have to go into many attributes. How do you define the demand forecasting? It can't be so simple. For each industry, you need to have those 5-10 attributes based on which this whole jugglery, the permutation combination needs to be done, fed into a system to automate it, and the demand forecasting can be done. And it should be very dynamic, right? This demand forecasting can't be then beginning of a month or a quarter I done it and it will be sacrosanct. No, the kind of customers will be coming, the tourists who are coming, any kind of conferences, etc., changes happening. It might change. So very frequently you need to do it. VMI is another tool, I believe, which the automobiles and FMCG industries follow a lot. Vendor managed inventory. If you have good collaboration with the vendors, right, then for the frequent items wherein you are not sure whether there will be a fluctuation in the quantities requirement, VMI plays a very critical role over there. That is another one. Third one could be even a JIT kind of concept, just in time concept with the vendors. Again, it is much more understanding the needs and you're working very closely, collaboratively with the vendors. It's a kind of virtual partnership with the vendor, that you need to form. I think with these kind of practices could be implemented as some kind of respite the fraternity can get, and we can deal with the situation much more better that way.
Brilliant. So for everybody else's knowledge, Mr. Sudhir Gupta comes from the other division of ITC. He was in fashion and he's got into the hospitality around a year, almost a year, sir, or a little more than a year now.
Year back.
Yeah, more than a year ago. So he brings a lot of values which are utilized in supply chain of the other industries and everybody else. For us, when we got into the hospitality industry, for us, supply chain, materials management, procurement management, purchasing was one. We did not think that these are all interlinked or different functions. And whatever we have learned either on job or from our bosses. And then slowly and steadily, we started realizing, no, the world is absolutely different outside and we need to know more than what we have. And hence, we started talking to each other, started taking the good practices and maybe a global practices we started following. That is the result that all of us have become friends. We contact, talk to each other, interact with each other. We share a lot of information, knowledge. We meet each other on different platforms, and I'm thankful to all of them who are contributing to the development of not just the individuals but the organizations and India, which is really helpful. So thank you, Mr. Gupta, for answering this question so beautifully. My next
Thank you.
Question is to Mr. Hariharan. Comes from the brilliant brand called the IHCL, which is Taj Group of Hotels. Sir, the question is, Taj is known for its legacy and history. Quality and the luxury as such comes at cost. You have been associated with Taj for over 10 years in supply chain. Can you please describe some cost reduction strategies without compromising on quality? You think that quality comes at a cost, but if you can advise and if you can answer this question, Arya.
Thank you, Bhavnesh. Thank you, Dr. Nitin. It's a pleasure to come into this panel, and thank you, BW Hotelier. I would say that quality is one of the three pillars. We have three pillars. Quality is one of the pillars. Then you have cost and delivery. We said quality cannot be compromised. Quality can be achieved through value engineering and value analysis also. Like you mentioned, the question of cost reduction strategy and without affecting the quality. We have a number of examples. A simple example I'll give you is like, for example, the toiletries. Now, toiletries comes at a particular size and weight and everything, volume. Now, when we did an analysis, we found that there were, the usage was less and, it wasn't used to its maximum thing. There were, 30-40% were still left. By slightly reducing that volume, we could achieve without changing any quality, without even giving any differentiation or anything, the cost reduction was achieved on that, and that is one of the major expense that is there on the the amenities part of it. The various other cost strategies I can tell you is simple. Like for example, our own corporate materials group and material functions, we are paperless. We don't do any. We do so many contracts, even about 500 plus contracts. None of the contracts goes through a hard paper, stationery, printing, couriers, or anything. But during this lockdown, we are 6 months at home. We have made so many contracts, so many amendments, and so many renegotiations. None of this are on a paper documented. They are all on an electronic format, stored on a cloud storage, retrieved at anywhere, and anybody can do it who has an access to that. Next is power. Now, recently we have signed with Tata Power for the captive power. Now, again, that's a cost reduction strategy, but without affecting quality. You get the best renewable power that you get it. Next, I can say is bottling plant. Now, in-house bottling plant that is in process, which other hotels are also doing. Again, that is again a cost reduction strategy where you don't compromise on the quality. So these are the process that we keep on learning on a day-to-day basis and try to implement as soon as possible. But one foremost thing is that there cannot be any second to the quality. Quality always comes first to us. Whether it's cost, anything, delivery, no compromise on that. We have to devise. We have to find out with new technology and everything that is coming in today. You have solar power, you have water generate from air. You can generate water from air. Who has heard about that? You always felt that water comes from a borewell or other things, but you can generate from air water, store it, and then supply it. It's a clean drinking water without minerals. You need to add minerals to it. So there are various examples, and it's a learning process that we do it and try to implement as much as possible that can be.
No, it's very important that the legacy of the organization is taken forward with different measures. And Taj Central Purchase is known for the quality, known for the wisdom which they bring it. I was always impressed with the way Taj Central Purchase has. Okay, Bharani, would you like to say something?
Yeah, Nitin, thank you. I think Mr. Hariharan has very well covered the point of quality and the cost balancing. I would like to add a simple example, like a recent case study. Some of the kind of frozen non-veg product, a supplier can give at a kind of X price. There is another supplier who can give at X minus price. Okay. At the face of it, it looks that the X minus looks very, very good. But when you get to the deep of the root of it, they don't have a proper, safety, food safety standards. They don't have a proper, hygiene vehicles. They don't have a proper, distribution, like more like a kind of, how to pack and how to deliver the products. So it's very, very critical for procurement to, in my personal opinion, like I'm very, very thankful that in Marriott, all the senior management, they always keep saying that quality, while without compromising quality, we need to really look at the kind of cost benefits. Okay, like what happens that it's the moment we really overlook that, it will really get into a bigger brand reputation, and health safety, and food safety issues may come. So it's very, very critical that all the procurement leaders really look at price weightage. Could be only 33 to 40% could be price weightage. That 60% weightage has to be given for the quality of the product and the vendor evaluation, vendor audits. A lot of things really gets into that. Yeah. I would like to add that. Yeah.
No, brilliant. I agree with you. I work with this company named QualityNZ, and the first quality aspect is that the product has to be top class. The product has to be traceable. Everything has to be of, if the product is not of good quality, it will not even leave the factory. And then when we talk about different attributes of the product, and then only it comes to the port of New Zealand and then in India. So a point I'm making is it's become a minimum norm for all of us. COVID-19 has taught us that food safety, hygiene is extremely important, and we need to have those vendors who follow all of this day in and out, not just showcase on their catalogs or on videos, but they live in. So one is it's most welcome to visit factories and understand that these vendors, these supply partners are actually following. I'm going to be moving on and talking to Mr. Arvind Mathur. Mr. Mathur has been a legend. He's worked with several organizations mostly, and I know him from the Taj days. Sir, I'm really happy that I'm here with you and I'm sharing the same platform with you, sir. My question to you is: negotiation is an art, and To be successful, one needs to keep many aspects in mind. Can you describe few qualities of a good negotiator?
Yes, thank you, Nitin. I also want to thank Mr. Khanna for having me here. And this is a show which I share with very senior industry colleagues, and good to be here with everybody. Thank you for that. So Nitin, yes, I agree that negotiation is an art, to the extent that at the end of the negotiation, both the buyer and the seller should be, happy with what they've done, satisfied with what they have achieved, and it should end up in a kind of a win-win situation for both the buyer and the seller. And this art of negotiating is something that a person never really can be a master of, but it is something that you learn as you move along. And I won't say that I'm I know it all even today, even though I've been in the
Uh,
industry for almost 3 decades. So every day you get to learn new things from different people, not only from your seniors but also from your subordinates. So many times that has happened, and the reason for that is that we at times tend to think only of the way we've learned to do things, but then again, as the world is changing, and this pandemic is a very good example of what has happened, and how we all need to adapt and change to the changing times. But nevertheless, there are certain things which never go away and they always remain. So, if we were to look at some qualities of a good negotiator, um, what comes to mind first is that the negotiator needs to understand and have a knowledge. So, basically, he needs to be knowledgeable of the product or the service that he is negotiating. And at times, that comes with some background. Kind of experience, or it may be based on what you have done. If you are an engineer, I think Bernie has done engineering, so he understands that. um, so that is something which is very, very important. You have to know what you're negotiating, otherwise you're kind of shooting in the dark. So you have to prepare for it. And if it is a product, if you can break it down in terms of what something like that would cost if you were to make it yourself. That is something that I learned to do at the Taj in the Taj days. And just for Mr. Hariharan's understanding, I was part of the central purchase when it started at the Taj, and
So
thereafter I
it's been like 2000 or something, yeah. I remember.
yes, yes, that was early 2000. So that is one. The other thing would be the person needs to have a very pleasing personality, in the sense that he needs to conduct himself in a very, very professional manner. The body language is a very important aspect of that, and the way the person says or communicates with the other party. So communication then becomes another very important quality. That's very, very important, because at times I have seen from my peers and even superiors in other organizations that at times they tend to be um, downright rude. So that is something which really, really needs to be avoided. And I keep telling all people who worked with me that you need to be very careful about that aspect, because we are not in a scenario today where you can kind of boss around and be rude and expect the supplier to accept your terms. It
Correct.
doesn't work that way anymore, and it is not really human or humane to be behaving in that manner. So
Correct.
you
Correct.
need to treat everybody with dignity and respect at all times, no matter what the outcome of it may be. Then again, you need to be authoritative. all right. There's no doubt about that, but not to the extent of displaying, power.
Arrogance. Yeah.
Yeah, it may be the power of the seat that you're sitting on or the organization that you're representing, but it needs to be more assertive in nature, with a kind of logic behind what you are saying and expecting the other party to do for you. So that would mean that you need to be persuasive enough, but at the same time apply the rationale to it so that you get what you are looking for, which would mean that your communication skills need to be bang on, and you need to be articulative in your in the way you phrase your communication. Another important aspect and a quality which many people lack in the procurement is, and that's what my experience has been, is that they're very poor listeners. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, so listening is a listening skill is something which is very, very important. You need to be patient enough to hear the other person out and understand what his point of view is, because at times we may come with a preconceived notion of things on the table, and we kind of at times don't even register what the other person is saying. It may be that the other person may be coming up with a solution or a suggestion which actually makes sense to us as the buyer, and helps us in the overall negotiation, where we benefit as much as the other party does. So to that extent, we need to be collaborative, and both Bernie and Mr. Gupta have mentioned that earlier. So that is definitely something that we should always keep in mind. So collaboration is a very, very important aspect and quality of a good negotiator.
Good negotiator.
Yes. Then in the old days, in fact, the first day at work, integrity was something that was
Yeah.
kind of drilled into everybody, and that is something that always should remain in today's scenario, more so, especially in our function, which is so sensitive, and the way the industry is moving, and people getting into situations where at times they are lured into certain things, so they should stay away from that. That's a very important aspect, but at the same time, integrity also extends to the fact that one should be careful not to divulge any kind of information relating to the company, uh, which is sensitive in nature, or even to be, how should I say, commit or say things which are not really factual, and that may lead to a kind of a manipulative situation, which in the long run will harm both the buyer and the seller. So one has to be careful about that. um, then I think being able to analyze and then take a decision is again something which at the end of the negotiation is a very, very important aspect. So decision making and to be decisive enough is I think another quality which one needs to have. Um, you see, and I would like to just touch upon the situation that we are in, as you also mentioned, Nitin,
Yes, sir.
and but as well, with regard to the pandemic that we are in. So it is something which was in nobody's control, and uh, even though we hope for the best, but we never know what's going to happen in the future, based on what's going on in the world. Um, I would say that we need to be empathetic to all
Correct.
our stakeholders.
Correct.
When I say that, we need to be caring to our guests, to the hotel owners in our case, where all the hotels are managed and franchised for us. Our colleagues who right now are, many of them are in a situation where they don't have work. So that is something which Nitin has already worked on for the fraternity. That's Thank you for that, Nitin.
Thank you.
So we need to really look at all of that and move along together, carry everybody together. And right now the outlook for the future seems to be optimistic. We've started to reopen our hotels. In fact, 2/3 of them are already open, and business on books in the last quarter of this calendar year is looking up. So that is something that we need to look at. And as we move along, these qualities of a negotiator should keep emerging from the need of the times that we are in.
Correct.
I think that should.
Oh, you captured everything which one would have. So thank you. It's important for everybody to have that win-win situation with the supply partners and the buyers, because if there is no win at one side and if it is lose, then obviously the relationship doesn't go forward for a long time. I know all of you always have believed that you get the best for the organizations, but also with respect, you ensure that the supply partner also takes away his deserved profit. My next question is going to be to Mr. Sai Shankar. Sai has joined Leela some time ago, say about 4 odd months ago, but he's with the industry for a long time. He worked with Taj. He also worked with PVR. Sai, I have this question is, as a procurement professional, you keep an eye on the budget and always ensure that the costs are kept under control. Can you tell me about your experience lowering the expenses and also monitoring cost at the same time?
Yes. Good afternoon to everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. Khanna, Mr. Nitin. Thanks for this opportunity. So experience teaches you a lot. So one of the key element while having a tab on the budgets is to have a close look at the specifications, what has been planned originally. So normally you will always see the variation in cost or the budgets getting overshooten to a reason, maybe while doing your budgeting at the beginning of the year. You plan for something and where the costs have been estimated at something, where when this actual negotiations or like the actual sourcing happens, that's where you feel that the specifications might need to looked at and things like that. That's how some of these major cost escalations you see on the what the plan the budgets against is always you see that the increasing trend, because the only reason that the specifications got changed, or your the core elements of X brand has been planned, Y brand has been replaced and things like that. So that is one of the key element where you need to look at, where you ensure that what has been planned for you be in the same specification. Doesn't mean that you end up in buying a wrong product. You should also ensure that you buy a right product at a right price. So that is one of the key element. And also the vendor whom you're going to associate, the partner who are going to associate, also should have that credibility or a kind of capabilities to fulfill our requirements. Because at times it happens that X fabric has been specified, and where the vendor comes with some other option of maybe suggesting you an alternate fabric or a better quality fabric, where you feel that this might give you a longer life of its usage or things like that. So it always also helps that these inputs comes from the vendor partners, like the other panelists mentioned. So these also will have an impact while making these decisions. And also there are a lot of options being available to you, things like duty free options available from importing from various countries and things like that. But with the current situation we are in, these are some of these challenges what you're going to see, that these duty benefits are might not be available, where there is no foreign exchange happening. So you will have these kind of challenges, especially when you import wines or imported food products, where maybe some of our hotels will have some of the hotel chains might be carrying forward their duty scripts or something like that. We at Leela, we are having some of these challenges. We are looking at overcoming such challenges, where we also need to be within the budgets what has been planned for. So these are some of these initiatives where we are looking at overcoming, especially to be within the budgets. And as I said, you also need to have our own internal customer who has planned for this product also to be on the same page, so that it has to be the internal customer, not the external customer. The internal customer also has to be given that satisfaction level where while fulfilling his requirements, because it's been planned by them. So end of the day, it should also look at that the internal customer is also been taken into confidence that the product what we are buying is also to their need and to their operational efficiencies. So these are
Yeah.
few things I would like to highlight upon on the point.
Yeah, I want to ask you one more question, Sai. Do you think
Yeah.
the budgets have been rewritten after the COVID pandemic, or you have been just following the way it was?
No, it has been reformatted because of there is a dip in what you call the occupancies and other stuff. But at the same time, we're still having a kind of a positivity in terms of our the futuristic businesses and things like that. But still, we are making a kind of a balancing between the current situation in terms of the occupancies drop and as well as the upcoming businesses what we're going to aim for.
This question is to the panel. Anybody can answer. Suddenly, there is reduction in revenue, and there is a lot of cost which is being incurred in terms of changing your property infrastructure to make it COVID friendly. COVID-19. Ease to work in this scenario. Also, there are new things in terms of surveillance, in terms of hygiene, safety, in terms of new methods of doing business has come in. So that as such has added so much of cost. Can anyone tell me, has that added to the cost, and how do you manage this? That there is no revenue, but then expense which needs to be done. You have to contact your supply partners and tell them, please supply me, and then I promise that I will pay you whenever. But then we don't see revenues coming in soon, but expenses are fixed. So can anybody answer this question?
Can I?
I will take that question, Nitin. I know you are hit at the right point. With this COVID thing and this expense that is this unbudgeted expense, we can call it. Nobody budgeted in FY 2021 that I'm going to buy sanitizers and PPE and face mask and gowns and everything, which was never even in any of the budgeting that you must have written onto it. But this has come to us, to come to everyone, and this cost has hit us. But the thing is that you need to provide it. You need to provide it in terms of the business that you're going to take it forward, and from the safety point of view, from the employee safety point of view, from the guest safety point of view. So these are expenses. These are to be factored and try to see that how I can control the cost. The thing is that not every expense is needed. You need to look at with a closer angle of all your cost expense. Like we have gone through each and every contracts and looked at in detail. While in a normal scenario, pre-COVID scenario, we don't look at it. But today we have to look at it at that lens high and see how I can control the cost, what best facilities I can provide without compromising. See, our hospitality industry, for us, people come to our hotels with all confidence. They go everywhere, but when they come to the hotel, any of our hotel within the group that we are in, they expect that hygiene and the cleanliness and everything. There are certain things like thermal scanning and everything, there are certain things which are must. There are certain things which can be or which has to be proven and get it done. So you have to identify those parameters and then take a call. Like wearing a mask or sanitizing the place goes without saying. But do you need a thermal scanning cameras? Can it scan? Is it 100% foolproof? No, it is not. So fine, you do your current method. So you need to differentiate between those and provide the one which are must and which needs to be, and try to work out the cost from any other part that you can do it. Because without doing this or any lacuna in this process, then your whole hospitality service is gone. That's my
Really? Well, thanks. With this thought, I have a question for Mr. Senthil Thangam from Blue Star. Sir, Blue Star is a multi-product supplier for kitchen equipment and air conditioning. Can you tell me what's going to be the impact due to the special design of this air conditioning system post-COVID-19?
Yeah, good afternoon, Nitin, and Good afternoon to the entire panel. Many of them, including Mr. Ramaswamy, has already mentioned. I think there has to be a very, very close association with the solution provider at a very, very early stage. The solutions will involve both on the product and also how we execute the projects. In both the sides, we need to be very careful post COVID. Now, coming to specifically with respect to air conditioning, the most important parameter which is actually overlooked often, especially in a public spaces, hotels kind of a segment, is the fresh air. Adequate fresh air is not given. We have seen in many of the hotels that is not being done. In this COVID scenario, fresh air is very critical. Generally, we provide around no kind of one air change per hour. That is not at all adequate in the COVID scenario. The guidelines stipulate anywhere around 2 to 3 air changes per hour. So this will certainly warrant some amount of TFA units, treated fresh air units, and the ancillary work design in the air conditioning system. So that is one important thing which all of us need to keep in mind when we design the future projects. And the second is with respect to the air conditioning systems itself coming with special filters or UVGI. These two are capable of killing 99.9% COVID. So this is going to be the new norms. I think especially public spaces like hotels, restaurants, malls need to look at these kind of special central air conditioning systems which are capable of handling COVID. This necessarily does not mean that the entire place will be sanitized, but what is there in air will get killed. But still, we need to take care of surface disinfection and sanitization and social distancing. That needs to be certainly kept in mind. But today, I'm happy to say that Blue Star is ready with a range of products capable of handling
Thank you.
COVID-19.
My next question is my favorite, Dr. Sanjay. Dr. Saab, our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, has been talking about going vocal for local. That's his mantra, and I think the industry needs it more than ever before. What do you think? What can we do, and how are you planning to do this?
Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Khanna Saab. Good afternoon, Nitin and everybody. I think, very pertinent point. In fact, during his last address to the nation, Prime Minister spoke about global supply chain, disruption in global supply chain, and how we become the world's factory, or we become the his dream is that India becomes the exporter for the world. What I feel is that we as a nation, we don't take pride in our talent. We don't take pride in what we have, and this is the time. This is a great opportunity. This disruption is probably the greatest opportunity for India to come out of that self-inflicted, thought that we are not good enough. I tell you, I've got few examples. I was reading in the comments also. Like India is the largest importer for soya sauce for Japanese or Chinese cuisine, and there's a company out of Chennai. That guy makes soya sauce which is 100% exported to Japan, and he has got the capability, understanding of that know-how. But if the Indian mindset, Indian chefs as a fraternity, and everybody tries to develop those talent and those what we have in the country. Likewise, in case of say equipment, we end up importing so many equipments. I think 70-80% are manufactured in China, though they may be European or US companies. But there are companies in India. There are technocrats who can understand technology, who can create equally good equipment, provided we believe in Indian technology, Indian partners. So it is, I think, procurement fraternity has to play a bigger role here to give them a chance, and try to articulate in front of user departments to give them a chance, because We will not reach to world level in very soon, but definitely we have to start somewhere. And I think COVID has provided us that opportunity that this is the time we should start believing in ourselves, giving chance to our partners who may be small but they are passionate. They are they have the know-how and they have the skill sets, and then later on it is only about scaling up. So I strongly feel that COVID has provided us this great opportunity, and going from global to local is a great thought, and it should not just remain a phrase, and we should walk that talk. That's what I feel, and that can bring a 360-degree change in the supply chain to become a value chain. So that will also meet out in terms of speed to market. We will be able to deliver products fast, much more economical, and can be serviced better.
Right. Sir, based on this answer which you have given, I have a question either for Hariharan or for Sai. Both of you have been from the projects background, and in most of the components which we use in OSNEs and FFNEs, they come in from China, and they're across categories in the hospitality sourcing. They're almost rampant, I would say. So how do you handle the substitution of this, and how can you not buy Chinese products?
Well, I can come in with Sai. We both have worked together on a project. When Taj went into New York and here, and we acquired the property in 2006, and I was heading that project over there. That was a reverse case. We bought everything from India. The fabric was from India. The furnitures were from India. The carpets were from India. The decorative lights were from India. Almost about 70%. So the thing is that we did the entire project. The entire 180 rooms was done with complete bought out. And my very good friend Sai had helped me from India, and we did that project completely. And those were there. Americans itself used to go to China. They used to say, "Why don't you go to XYZ? I don't want to name the company, but why don't you go to XYZ and get it?" He says, "No, we have beautiful furniture. Entire furniture, my loose furnitures were shipped out from India. The fabrics was from a well-known brand from India." So the thing is that you don't have to, like Dr. Goyal mentioned, there are manufacturing facilities good in India. Today you have a lot of...
Let me, Hari, ask you one thing. Hari, I'll make an intervention here. I don't do that. But tell me, were you at a price loss or a cost loss when you sourced from India?
We were not a price loss. The price was because we got it in our own pricing, that Indian pricing, and you convert that pricing into US dollar.
Yeah.
It was not priced in US dollar. It was conversion of Indian pricing to US dollar, not the other way around. Yes, it was good. And it was all from known vendors. It was all from brand vendors. But the advantage we had was because we had a tie-up. We had the advantage that was there for our Indian company, and the brand had an advantage of that. So the point what Dr. Goyal mentioned is that while there are manufacturing in India, today TV is banned from importing. There is a brand which cannot import today because they don't have a manufacturing, they have stopped the manufacturing. So, but there are challenges. The thing is, there are quality also. There are certain equipments which are to be dependent on foreign country. Like, for example, baggage scanner, which is a very critical equipment, though they are assembled in India. Or say kitchen equipment, your dishwasher. I give to me examples. Gas genset. Today, if it's a CPCB norm. So there are certain equipments. Even government is also looking at our list of EPCG. What are the negative lists? What are the restricted lists? They also are going to that Atmanirbhar thing and finding out how best can we source locally. So we need to look at local sourcing as much as possible, and work onto it. Sai, please.
Nitin, I'd like to
add. If I may, Nitin, I just want to add. Yeah. So what Mr. Hariharan just said, I fully agree with that, and the categories that he's mentioned when he did that sourcing from India. So those categories, fully agree with him, are should not be even looked at from anywhere else, from any other part of the world. But there are many categories, for example, and many people have quoted that it's kitchen equipment. We tend to have, whenever we have a new hotel coming up, we have two lists of items in kitchen equipment. One is the indigenous and the rest is imported. Now, the reason why we have that imported list is because we feel and we know that that equipment of that quality is not available in India, and we are willing to pay a much higher price for that. So we as procurement fraternity in the hospitality need to kind of moving forward, give opportunities to these manufacturers to kind of upgrade themselves to that level wherein we are ready to pay a slightly higher price, which would still be very much lower than what we are getting as an imported item, and
Correct.
allow them to grow to that.
Arvind, I have a point here.
Yes.
We should start with what you can easily substitute, at least make a start, and then go up the ladder to components which do not have immediate import substitution. For instance, clips, hangers, shoe horns, shoe brushes, your whatever accessories you have. I see a whole lot of brands, me, Nitin, all of you know, who come in from Hong Kong and all these
Absolutely.
places, but they source the products from China and they stamp it and sell over here. I think those are the immediate doables. That brings me to another question, Nitin. With your permission, you are the
Oh,
moderator.
sir, sure, please.
I can take liberties. Senthil, tell me, Blue Star, how are you managing import substitution?
Yeah, so sir, I think many of the eminent panelists have already discussed. First is I wanted to clarify that products which are manufactured in India are indeed very competitive. The only exception can be comparing it with China. Otherwise, across the globe, I think we will be certainly very competitive. And unfortunately, when you compare with China, China is at least 20 times the market size of any product line. It can be air conditioners to anything. They will be 20 times more. So the volume of scale is so high. So generally it becomes very difficult for most of the Indian manufacturers to compete with them on the prices. Like what you rightly asked, sir. So Blue Star today, we are the HVAC company which manufactures the entire range in India, completely from split air conditioners to large centrifugal chillers. But when we analyze this, the only way we thought that we should counter this is by having a differentiated product which is customized for India. So that is how we are managing. For example, if you take any product design like VRF, which is very popular in hotel industry, we have developed products which are designed for Indian conditions, like capacity delivered at 43 degrees centigrade and able to withstand the voltage fluctuations type, and which will be very unique and different from what is offered from China. So that is how we manage that. But having said that, I think all the eminent panelists here, I think if they can really look at supporting Indian manufacturers for some time in the coming years, I'm sure many of the Indian manufacturers will grow. The entire supply chain also will certainly have some stability in India when the demand picks up, and we can certainly compete with even the Chinese vendors.
So Nitin sir, sorry, my apologies for butting in, but there is a message for all of us over here from Mr. Senthil. Support Indian brands.
Absolutely, sir.
I have one thing to say, just to add on what Mr. Khanna said. So even we have done the same thing. The easy ones, like things like the guest amenities, the linen, which we used to import from China, these are the ones actually can be easily adoptable, easily can be shifted to the Indian region. So we have actually done that at Leela. So we have already started the process. We have actually in the process of approving the products, and also these are the like easy takers where there is no much of a kind of a R&D or too much of a thought through required. The quality parameters have been used in most of the hotel chains in India. So we have done that shift has already happened. So the next level we'll be looking at the FF&E supplies
So
and other
let us
supplies.
Nitin ask everybody over here who shifted what.
Bernie has been wanting to talk.
Yeah, I would like to share something. Just if you look at it, what I see is that, of course, for me, I joined Marriott in 2012, and then when we looked at it, I think the localization has been one of the biggest, topic in Marriott, for most of the areas. Okay, and if you look at it recently, when we did a kind of quick analysis for one of the hotel groups in our team, like what we found is still we are using around approximately 9 to 10% of imported food products. Okay, and crockery and cutlery, we are still using more than 50 to 60% of imported products. There's a huge opportunity in as simple as crockery and cutlery. Okay, because the local crockery and cutlery is still somewhere there is a kind of either a perception of quality and perception of the brand is still is been very low. I think that's where we really need to collaborate with our operating team and then see how much we really can push the crockery and cutlery as a simple product to the on the table of the localization. That is going to be a biggest opportunity to in terms of bringing a kind of efficiency and also in terms of the bringing a standardization. Yeah, and whereas I think linen and the room amenities, those things are already done. In we have localized it previously. Yeah.
Yeah. A lamb has to be New Zealand lamb, please. Rest of the products can be replaced.
No, I have some idea for you, Nitin. I'll come back to you. I have something to share with you. Okay?
I have an idea. I'll tell him go vegetarian.
So, gentlemen, this I don't think there's any time left. There's a reminder which is coming, and so I have one question to everybody, and this is very close to my heart. I've always believed that education sets you apart. Always believed that it widens your wisdom. It also widens your the view, and you start thinking and looking beyond your own perspective. How important is education in the hospitality procurement manager's life? If some of you, this question was actually allocated to Mr. Gupta, but then I'm opening it up for everyone. Mr. Gupta, you must be, I would request you to answer this, and then all of you, if you can contribute, and then I will summarize and we close the session.
Mute.
Unmute, kariye. Unmute. Yeah. Sudhir, unmute kariye, unmute. Yeah.
Unmute karo, unmute.
हाँ. Now.
You can
hear
me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Very pertinent question. Lot of expectation in the changing scenario from the procurement department, and is the human being, is the personal asset which adds that value, which can deliver. You can do anything and everything. We can invest in a lot of technology, right? Money can buy that, but if we don't have the right talent to operate it, right talent to manage it, still the output won't be coming. Now, all this, I think Mr. Arvind described a lot of qualities what the procurement professionals are supposed to, they need in the negotiation process. I also try to, day to day when we interact, what all you do, different units, the context might be slightly different, but what are they doing? What is the expectation? And what are the key requirements which help them in day to day into their work? Right. So when you start a fresh or you want to recruit a professional into procurement for the hotel, I think there are a couple of qualities which you must look at. Negotiation skills, everybody knows. Yes, you should be, very articulate. You should be having that, nip into your hand to negotiate much more better. The commercial competence, another important, the quality comes the commercial competence. You should have the knowledge of different commercials, the raw material industry, the indices which are going internationally and nationally, right? You should have a knowledge on the products. It's a wide array of products, in fact, what a procurement specialist handles in a hotel. So some knowledge at least, and that kind of mindset to understand those products quickly, that should be there, a kind of aided with the technical skills. You should have very important aspect today is the supply chain management along with the inventory control. How do you, as I was saying, pattern analysis, what to order, what not to order? How do you manage with the vendors on the VMI? So all those kind of qualities you channelize with the vendors. Important government policies, some kind of idea you should have. And added with that is the data analytics skill. I think a lot of data analytics as is required in the other industries, same will be required much more in the hotel industry as well. And then you have the softer skill, like the kind of way you talk to the people, you manage your internal customers, the man management skills, the leadership skills, etc. Now to cater to all these kind of requirements, it is, I think it's must that some of these, qualities should be fulfilled right at the beginning. Uh, some of them could be either you have the professionals who are from engineering background, okay, especially chemical or food technologist, specialist, which adds a lot of value in any operations. I think 40 to 50% of the purchasing happens on the food side, right? Which is very frequent, in fact. Or it could be, the professionals who have got a commercial acumen, right? Or added with whether it's a MBA or it's a kind of ICWS CA type of qualifications. These, if you have them, then you will take less of time to train them. Their understanding will be far much wider, okay, and it will be easy to groom them, later. You need to have a kind of whole program for their training and how to have a roadmap for their growth into the senior positions. It may not be necessary into procurement or in the hotel industry
I think
itself.
we should close this now. We're already 5 minutes up. We have almost 30 winners waiting in sequence.
We have an award session. So let me close this, sir.
Nitin, why don't you quickly sum up? My apologies, everybody. You won't mind. There are scheduling issues.
Sure, so 1 minute. So this COVID-19 has changed our life. So what's important and going to be the first priority, that we should always be ensuring that our people, operations, customer partners, and supply partners are safe. This is an opportunity and a challenging time on how things have done differently than the traditional methods. Leaders thrive on challenge, and procurement professionals are some of the most resilient and resourceful leaders. We should all to look for new and innovative ideas and ways of working that can deliver long-term value to the business beyond the immediate crisis. Today, we talked about many aspects of business. We with this panel, which is brilliantly described about collaboration. We talked about disruption. We talked about no compromise on quality. We also talked about the quality of good negotiator. Experience has taught us. We talked about import substitution. We talked about vocal for local, and we also talked about importance of educated buyer. So all these qualities will make us not just better, but it will make the world to be the best place for us to live. With this thought, I'm going to be closing the session. I want to thank VW Hotelier, Mr. Bhuvnesh Khanna, Ajit, Prerna, the team of VW Hotelier, and also my eminent panelists who have not just taken out the time to help us to know and learn better, but they have been there with us, and they will make this world a definite different and a better place to live in. Thank you very much, and let me close this session.
I will close this. One point you missed, which is actually covered in Vocal for Local, support local brands.
Absolutely,
right?
Sir. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Let us start with heavy capital equipment, which is locally available. Of course, start with all the accessories, but start with air conditioning, air handling, right? Water filter, water purification systems, which are all locally available. भाई अगर एसी इंडिया में मिल रहा है तो अगर 2 पैसे फालतू रहेंगे ना, भारतवर्ष में रहेंगे. Having come to that, this has been a wonderful session, a great session. I have one question. We are not able to host physical event. That's why we've held this virtually. In the future, would you want to see more virtual, more physical, or a balance? What would you want?
I think, Mr. Khanna, a balance of the two would be good.
Yes.
Reason for that being that what we've realized is, and this applies across industries, across our homes also, that the communication level and the number of people who can come on to a virtual show is much, much higher. And people can plan it out easily. They just need to log in for that particular period of time. It saves them the time of logistics, all of that. So I think a combination of the two would be good.
So ideally, I feel while doing a physical, there should also be virtual, because there are many people who like.
The audiences are much big. The convenience is much big. Yes. You don't have to travel and burn fuel and waste time on the road. You don't have to take flights to come for an event. You don't. I won't say that. Don't spend money on hotel and food. That can be detrimental. But let me tell you, our event is by far more than twice bigger than any hospitality summit or any summit for that matter, bigger by more than 2 or 3 times, right? And some people tell me which claim we cannot make legally. I'm not saying perhaps the biggest in the world ever.
We have to be part of this biggest event.
Even Mr. Khanna, even the live shows that you do in the future should have a live streaming that should be available for people to attend.
फिर आप हमारे इवेंट देखते नहीं, हमारा हर इवेंट लाइव स्ट्रीम में होता है.
Khanna साहब, we want to come and hug you. होना ही चाहिए ये live, definite, physical definitely. Virtual करो ना करो.
मेरा ये कहना है कि आप लोग हम keep supporting us, keep guiding us, and keep blessing us. Thank you, Nitin. You've been a wonderful host as always. Right?
Thank you.
I always say a brother to the mother. Thank you, Senthil.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Nitin, for a great show.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Bharani sir, thank you so much. I don't know if you don't look at things. Your hands are here. Who's replying for you? Thank you, Dr. Goyal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sai. Arvind.
Thank you, sir.
Next time, never disagree with a modernite who's your senior. Right? And Hari sir, my first show with you. Grateful. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah. And look forward to doing more with you.
Sure, always.
Mr. Gupta, great again
you,
to
sir.
do a show again with you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Goyal. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Goyal. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.